Cool. Well, I'm glad to be able to have this conversation with you, Taylor. Let's see what we talk about.
Yes, let's see what comes up over 14 years.
Yeah. I was thinking about like, when did I first meet you, And I don't know if this is accurate, but I think about the play, The Air We Breathe. And I think about that because it was something really big that you were doing. And I remember thinking, oh, all right, Taylor's artsy. That was my perception. I'm like, oh, Taylor's in the arts, like that was my thought, and as we got to know each other better, as you started to play different roles in the organization, you took on a lot of the policy leadership in our organization, right? And so very far from the arts, but yeah, so I wanted to see if you can kind of like talk about like, what did you think about East Yard how did you first hear about East Yard? And then when you first started to get engaged, what were some of your thoughts about East Yard?
Yeah. So I think I talked about this a little bit with Lauda, Winton, my friend and a previous boo. He was an organizer in Long Beach for East Yards. And so I think he was hosting a Air Pollution 101 workshop. And at the time, I'm in my early 20s. I'm just trying to figure out how to live life. And, I was still living in my family home on the West Side at that time. So very much impacted by environmental justice, all the toxic industries. But when he invited me out to a meeting, I was like, pollution? Environmental justice? Yeah. I don't care about that. Whatever. But I knew it was important to him. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the meeting to support you. And in that meeting, that's when I learned like, oh, this freeway and these trucks are spewing things that are toxic to my health. These refineries are emitting cancer-causing agents. The ports, the rail yards, so on and so forth. And all of that is impacting my community. It's impacting my neighborhood. And it probably caused my asthma, that I was diagnosed with as a child. And other communities look like mine. And other neighborhoods in Long Beach don't look like mine. And I think what was the most important part is like, people are doing something about these impacts, because I hate to be told that there's a problem, but that we're not working on any type of solution. And so for me, that one meeting really changed the course of my life. It changed my understanding of community building, organizing, and political power, especially because up until that point, you grow up, at least for me, all I knew was like there's elected officials. We have a mayor, we have a president, we have a governor. They're in charge of making sure society functions, right? East Yards showed me.
I was just thinking about who was the mayor at that point. That was some terrible politicians.
Maybe Bob Foster.
Yeah, definitely the boy Bob.
That's a story for another time. But it really opened my eyes into like, what does it mean to like shape our neighborhoods and who has power and control over our day-to-day lives. And so that one meeting was like, ow, I'm thinking maybe I'll go back to school. I'll become a psychologist. I'll get a government job, get a house, get married, have kids. That trajectory, that continuing the upward mobility that my family has tried to achieve. And that meeting was like, I don't need to be on that trajectory. I don't want to be on that trajectory, actually. I want to be right here making an impact in my community. And so, my whole life changed off of that one meeting. And
that be happening. Watch out, y'all. Someone invites you to the East Yard workshop. Watch out. Might change your whole life. Yeah. When you came on, there was I'm forgetting the name of the program, but there was a program in Long Beach that you were like, that's how you...
Advanced Organizing Institute.
The Advanced Organizing Institute. I remember it was like some elders in the community who were investing in young folks, right? And that's really important. Obviously, it's been very fruitful, right? But I remember you you were going to work with Angelo, right? Who's one of the East Yard founders. And at that point, me and Angelo had kind of split the organization. So he was handling certain aspects. I was handling other aspects. So we didn't work too closely together at first. And I remember thinking like, oh, Taylor better be ready to run. Because Angelo's got a million things going on.
And wasn't.
I'm like, and Angelo teaches by like, let's go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Watch it get done. You step up and do it, and then you can do it, right? So what was that like?
Ooh, I describe it as like being thrown in the deep end of the water, and you just gotta start sinking or you swim. Mm-hmm. It was very much trial by fire, and not that Angelo's like, trying to put me through trials and tribulations, to learn how to do research and policy analyst. But I think, taking his own experience, it's like there's some things you're not going to learn unless you do them.
Yeah.
And we can get caught up in like, we need to practice and rehearse and train and, but like experiential learning is very important. And I feel like that was a skill that he instilled in me very early. And I was scared. I was scared all the time. I didn't know what I was doing. But I also think about like him and the founders of East Yards. They also didn't know what they were doing. They just went and did it, And so, it wasn't cute a lot of times. But I do think it built the foundation that allowed me to continue to do policy work in the organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very like DIY. And if you know Angelo, Angelo's all about the DIY. It's the DIY everything, right? During this time of you being on the team, you finished up some schooling, right? And tell us about that. Like, what was that like? Because that's definitely not an easy experience,
Yeah, I forgot about that. So the TLDR, to quote Lauda, because I love it when she uses that. I, started college at 18. I just thought it was something I was supposed to do. By the time I was 20, I had flunked out. And then I went back on academic probation. I was like, actually, I don't want to be here. So I just dropped out. And then that's when I started to, find different political spaces and get active in my community. And after I joined East Yards, a few years into it, I was like, I feel like I'm ready and equipped to be a college student. Like I have the resources and I have the interest to finish my degree. And so, we talked a lot because it wasn't like I was just going to go back and apply. Like it would be a big shift in how I was functioning. I also didn't have a car at that time.
We're going to tell stories about you not having a car. We'll get to that.
Rest in peace, the liquidators. So it was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And I want to figure this out. And so I talked to you about it. I don't remember who else was on the team at that time, but I felt very supported in taking that step to go and finish my degree. And we worked out, my work and, made good plans for it. I don't feel like it disrupted my work too much, but it was very important for me to have the support to complete my degree and complete that goal for myself. And, it wasn't easy because, even at like, I think I went back at like 24, I was taking like maybe 1 or 2 classes a semester just to balance it with my work. And even though I was kind of like the middle older people in the class, which is interesting to think about as a 24-year-old, you're like the older bracket. So I really appreciated that because it helped me figure out my time management. It helped me figure out my transportation and travel because I'd have to go from Cal State Long Beach to Commerce to South LA and back home in Long Beach. And, so it was possible because I had the support of the organization. I was able to receive a lot of advice, resource support, workload support. But I'm really thankful that I was able to do that. And I think more so it spoke to the opportunity that like when we want to do something that is outside of East Yards, we always figure out a way to support each other in doing that.
Yeah,
Can you share when you graduated?
You need the mic or not?
No.
Okay.
Y'all will get into this right now. But pretend like I didn't ask this question. But can you go into like why you decided when you graduated to take a picture at the bus stop?
Oh, yes.
What?
Yeah. It's on my Instagram, fool. Go check the page.
I only be sending you memes. I don't be looking at what people post.
Yeah, so I went back when I was 24 and I finished my bachelor's when I was 28. And, taking grad pictures is a thing. I didn't really get to do that when I was in high school. And so I was like, I want to do something, but I'm not really trying to hire a photographer. I'm not trying to pay to go somewhere and take these nice pictures. So I'm like, where can I do it? And I was like, the bus stop. Because when I started at Cal State Long Beach, I grew up, my family's home was on PCH and Harbor, which is 2 blocks from the 710 PCH entrance and exit. And so when I started college, they had just started a program where they gave students free bus passes. If they hadn't done that, I wouldn't know how I wouldn't have gotten to school.
Yeah.
I had no other way to get to school. But when I went to college, I was on that bus stop every day in the morning waiting to go to school. And so it was very pivotal in my journey. I'd get honked at by the truck drivers. I'm getting rained on because there was no bus shelter. And it was just getting home also was a big deal because there wasn't a comparative stop on the other side of the street. I have to go all the way to Santa Fe near Cabrillo, walk 6 to 7 blocks back to my house. And so it was it also informed my transportation lens. And so I wanted to honor that part of my journey. I think by that point, 28, I still didn't have a car. I still didn't have my own car. But those first 3 years that I spent taking the bus, it was, very informative to my own lens on transportation because I also watched the city change. I lived on the westernmost side of Long Beach and then going to the easternmost side. And it goes down PCH and 7th Street. So you literally watch the neighborhoods get cleaner, the roads get nicer, the houses get a little bit more resourced. And so it just, that bus stop was very pivotal to a lot of my understanding around transportation justice and land use and zoning. So
yeah, that's like a metaphor for your educational journey right there. Every day you were learning more about what's going on in the world around you. So more on honoring the journey. I'm there's a million threads here I want to pull at, but more on honoring the journey. Tell us about the first time you went up to Sacramento to do public comment. I think a lot of times our voices are missing from these types of spaces, policy conversations, elected officials. A lot of times say they're representing our communities, but aren't actually talking to our communities, right? Yeah. And I remember folks would be blowing me up to be like, we need you to do this, we need you to do that, we need you to do this, we need you to come here. And at a certain point, I was like, everything policy related, that's Taylor. You don't need to talk to me. You need to talk to Taylor. And I remember you kind of being like, don't talk to me. And so there was this opportunity to go speak in Sacramento, and I was like, this is it right here. This is I guess a sink or swim type of moment, right? Handle that, right? And I remember it was not something that you initially wanted to do. It seemed, I mean, share with us, what was that like?
Yeah, I didn't want to go. I don't think I'd been to Sacramento in several years. The first and last time I went as a turnaround trip with Californians for Justice, we went and had a lobby day. But that it was many, many years prior to that. And, at that point, my perspective and understanding of environmental justice was very local. It was Long Beach, and East LA, because we'd been working on Eastside at that point, and the communities along the 710. So it was a limited scope. So then to go do some statewide advocacy was very new. So I was very unsure. And also, I was the only person going, I want to say it was...
got money to take the whole team.
No, even though we were small back then, it was just me. And so I want to say it was for the California Air Resources Board Sustainable Freight Plan, which at the time was very monumental because they were looking at ways to implement zero emission freight plans across the state. Like, how do we get the state to zero emissions, particularly with heavy duty? So, it was like, okay, we get support from Earth Justice to go. I think we had also been a part of a statewide coalition of folks who were working on that plan. So it's like, okay, we'll take care of your flights. Just get yourself to and from the airport. I'm like, okay. I'm on the 232 bus going to LAX.
Yeah. Ride share was like not really a thing back then.
That didn't exist. No. There was no money for taxis.
Yeah.
Uber didn't exist. No. I'm on the bus for 2 hours getting to LAX.
Longer than the flight.
I'm in the airport. Total. Yeah, it was something else. So I was very nervous. I don't know if Angela went, so I might have just went by myself. I get there and there's folks in partner organizations to receive me. And they're like, look, you just share your experience. Like, that's what these folks up here don't get to see. Because the California Air Resources Board, they regulate a lot of mobile sources of pollution throughout the state. So like trucks, trains, ships. And most of us don't have the opportunity to go up to Sacramento to talk to them. They rarely have meetings out here. And when they do, they're in like Riverside, So they don't really get to hear the perspective of folks in environmental justice communities and the impacts that we experience from living in our communities. And so folks, they were very supportive. And I'm also like, y'all are a bunch of white people. Everybody's in suits.
Yeah.
It was a very intimidating environment. We go into this auditorium and they're on a big dais that's like, we're down here, they're up here. And I'm like, I'm looking around. I was the only Black woman in the room. I had a dashiki. I had my hair in twists. I'm like, and I'm an Aries, so I'm very much like, but it was an intimidating environment because it just felt oppressive. And, not having someone that looked like me, not having someone up there on the board who was even like a person of color or dark. I know there was some, Latina folks, but,
Yeah.
we know. We know. So I'm like, And I know I wrote my testimony and I get up there and it's my turn to speak. And I'm reading from it, doing my best to like say my words because I'm nervous. Every time I speak, even to this day, I get nervous because it takes a lot to have so much energy and attention on you. And when you're speaking about your personal experience from the heart, you don't know how it's going to be received. And so, I was very nervous, but I had to say my piece. And I want to say before I left, like you, Angelo, other folks we had on the ground was like, your experience matters and they need to hear it, so don't be intimidated by these folks who are older, who have degrees, who have credentials and, they're researchers, they're scientists, boom, 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 boom. Like your experience is valid and it's worth hearing. And that's not something that they can negate or take away from you. And so I took that with me and also the importance of like, I'm carrying the voices of my community who's not able to be here. So I said my piece, I got up there and afterwards, people in the audience who came and like, they talked to me and they were like, we were so thankful to hear what you shared. Like that was very impactful. A couple of the board members even came up to talk to me afterwards and they're like, thank you for sharing your testimony. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't get up at 3:00 in the morning for nothing. And they referenced my comments in their discussion. And so I was like, okay, it matters that I came, not just that it's my experience, but again, it's the experience of my community and other communities like mine that shifted the conversation that they were having. And so I'm thankful that I did it. It wasn't easy. I don't know that it ever gets easy. It gets easier, but I do think it was important to like be there and center community narrative in these policy spaces that often don't include us and include our voices.
Yeah, and you handled, I could tell, not just because I was like watching the live stream, witnessing, right? And I was just like, there it is. That was like, I'm not sure what to compare it to, but basically after that, I was like, Taylor's got it. And then the movement let me know you got it because they started hitting me up. They were like, Taylor. And I'm like, cool, that's exactly what the point is, right? Of like growing leadership and the horizontal nature of East Yard. Going on that, I remember, and this is going to be news to a lot of folks, I remember asking you to be co-ED with me. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Yeah, this was early on. This was not too long after that situation. But you were like, your response was, homie, I'm trying to figure out like how to do this good, how to do policy and research good. So I'm not ready to do that. And I remember because there's the experience of like supporting you and pushing you, right? Which is that Sacramento experience. And then what I thought was also that with this, but you knowing and setting your own boundaries. And I remember deeply respecting that because of what you explained of like, I want to be able to do this good before I start to do other stuff. And so I really respected that. And I appreciated that because I was like, she's not just going to like jump into stuff. She's not just going to like, you know, like haphazard. It's methodical, right? And so I don't know that I have a question with that because you don't remember. You don't remember me asking you, but I guess just to express that. But
thank you.
Yeah. I think going back a little bit to this idea of like feeling supported, right? And I think that's very much like East Yard culture is like to support each other, right? In all types of aspects. But I do think about the liquidators in particular because I feel like it's so like for those that don't know, it's informative of the culture of East Yard, right? So maybe you want to explain what the liquidators was, and then I could tell the story and see what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, R.I.P. the liquidators. So this was a large store that had liquidated inventory primarily from Target. And so it was at a deep discount. They had a range of products from electronics to, personal toiletries to clothing to furniture. And they were open most days out of the week. And they used to be in Commerce, I want to say somewhere along the 5. Yeah, they were a fantastic store.
Yeah. It was kind of, I like to justify our field trips. Our team field trips there by being like, it was like our zero waste.
Yeah, we were saving things from the landfill.
Yeah. Because there was like
100%.
Open boxes. They were like, hey, this may or may not work. We don't know.
Things returned to the store.
For sure. But I remember, because we talked about you not having a car, I remember this one experience where you just were about to fully furnish your apartment with a liquidator, including buying a couch. And you were on the bus. And so I remember being like, I know Taylor is not about to ride that couch on the bus all the way down Atlantic back to Long Beach. That's 20 miles. I was like, what is going on? And if I'm not mistaken, I think Ale pulled up with his car. And I don't know if he took you all the way to Long Beach or maybe it just got back to the office and like, it made its way down at some later point. Other time, I do remember there being several experiences where I'm like, oh, okay, those are some nice like decorations, lamp stuff, like in the corner of the office for a couple of days, So I want to see if you could share like an experience where maybe you felt supported by folks, and then also experience where you supported folks, like something that maybe was meaningful or kind of you took something away from that kind of helped inform how you moving forward or just something that you reflect on and kind of cherish. We can also come back to these questions.
Yeah, I really want to answer that. There's just a lot of years of memory running through my brain, so that let's take a note of that. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll come back to that, but I think maybe somewhat going off of that, like you mentioned earlier that going to Sacramento kind of expanded your perspective from like the community larger, right? Now you're a national leader, right? I don't know if people know that, but you're a national leader, right? And I think in that process, you've experienced different mentorship, right, from the local community to the national, and I be seeing you out there in the world, like in these different locations and stuff, and I know the good folks that you're with in some of these places, right? So I wanted to see if maybe you could tell us some more about that, on like what has mentorship looked like in your experience in the movement. Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from a lot of people over the years. I think I've learned two ways is by observing people and how they move through the world. But I mostly learned the other way is I make my stumbles, and then people will come and be like, here's how you could do that next time.
Yeah.
So I thankfully and gratefully, I've been able to experience a lot of compassion and kindness from various folks over the years. Some of our folks in bigger greens like Paul Court, Adrian Martinez, Melissa Lamparella, Angela Johnson Nazaros, Fernando Quitan, Oscar. And then, expanding out to some of our partners across the country, like Dr. Boston and Dr. McLean and Melissa Miles and Nikki Sheets. And usually it's like I meet these folks for the first time. I remember the first MFN conference I went to, I think was in 2014 or 2015. And they had it in Baltimore in January, which I was like, why? Who made this decision? And were you there? I think you were there because folks were really excited to have clam chowder for some reason.
Yeah. I remember the wind going through everything.
It was, oh my God.
Like the coldness was just penetrating.
It was bad. Yeah. I was not ready. Anyways, so the MFN conference, I remember that was the first time that I met Ramya Siva Subramanian and Melissa Lamparella from NRDC. And that was my first time seeing attorneys who were not white men. And, it seems like small, but representation does matter. And beyond that, I'm like, these are folks that we're working with for not just like our local and regional work, but national work to get zero emission freight policies at the national level. And so that expanded my idea of what it meant to do movement work and who can do this movement work. It's not just white men in, big environmental organizations, but there's a lot of folks of color who are doing great, impactful work. And they were also like very like kind and down to earth people, for me at times it was intimidating, especially in those early years, to meet people who were lawyers, who were scientists, who were doctors. And I'm like, I'm just a girl from the West Side. I don't even have a bachelor's degree. I didn't finish college. But to meet these folks who are like, yeah, if you want to talk about this policy, you want to learn about this, you want to like, have some support in this meeting, like I'm there. I'm here, and here's some talking points that we can work with. Here's some background information that I can share with you. There is a big culture of sharing, I found. And so people have been very open and warm and very open to giving me advice and, the belief that no question is dumb. Because, in those early years, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, I don't know what it means to have a legislative visit and be talking about a policy with an elected official. I don't know what that means. So folks would offer their time to like coach me on that, give me wisdom. This is how you do research on these people. This is how you find out what's important to them. This is how you frame your messaging so that it can resonate. Or this is how you can frame your messaging so you challenge their narrative. And so I've just experienced that at different stages of my life in different areas doing policy work. Like the more that I expand and go into a different area, particularly leaving like, the local policy work and doing statewide and then national, like it requires different types of education and understanding. And so folks across the board in all of the places that we've organized have been very open and kind and just like, here, let me share my experience. Let me show you what I got. And anything we don't know, we can learn together. So, yeah, shout out to all those amazing people.
Yeah. You sharing all of that also makes me think of other places where I've seen your growth over the years. I think about Taylor being able to kick somebody's butt. that increased over the years, and you invited me and Flori out to experience some stuff. And then I think about you embracing your culture. And for me, like the experience of the last Moving Forward Network gathering here in LA, and you opening up the last day dancing with your folks, I was just like, this is beautiful. Like I teared up. And so can you tell us a little bit about that? On like how or where you built strength kind of alongside some of this policy stuff, some of this aspect of the movement stuff to kind of be strong. Because when we look at you, you're strong. When we look at you, you're confident. When we look at you, everything. You're like, it's funny to hear you talk about like being unsure or like not having, necessarily the experiences or the resources and stuff. Because for those of us that are around you, you're steel, And so, can you tell us a little bit about like building those aspects of yourself alongside like some of this other movement stuff?
That's a great question. I feel like Eastside modeled a lot of that for me. I remember, way back when we had the office in the church in Long Beach, and we were doing like seasoning of the seasons. Yeah, throwback. And
I still Whitney, we need some of that guava jam from back in the day.
Never forgets. Virgos don't forget. And I think one of the first ones we did was Flori taught us how to make like pipián. Mm-hmm. And, that introduction, fusion, and sharing of her indigenous culture and like marrying it to food sovereignty and justice under the umbrella of environmental justice was like, wow, I never experienced this before, seeing folks like Laura, she started going and taking her danza classes, and so there's always been little points where we infuse our culture in the work. Mm-hmm. And, after I was in a very bad relationship early on, and at a certain point, I was just like very focused on my work, but I realized there were pieces of me that I needed to build outside of that would also contribute to me being solid in my work. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I was walking home one day and there was a dojo not far from my apartment. And, whatever, dojos, like CrossFit was very big at that time. So I was like, whatever. But, one day I'm looking in and I saw the instructor was a Black woman. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait a minute, I ain't never seen that before. But I didn't think anything about it. I'm just like, that's cool. Keep it pushing. So it took a couple more passes to walk by. So like, cool. And they were doing all these things that I was like, I'll never be able to do that. Like they're rolling, they're punching, they're tossing. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. One day I'm walking by and the instructor, she sees me and she offers me a flyer. Mm. And I'm like, oh, this means I have to come now. You got me.
Like she gonna kick my butt if I don't come.
No. Like she see me in the area. She knows. Yeah. And I was like, oh, dang, it doesn't hurt to try, I guess. I don't know that I'll be able to do it. Yeah. And that started now almost 10-year journey that I've been practicing martial arts. And it was very pivotal for me because for a while I was the only woman or femme, an AFAB person that was in my dojo consistently. And it helped me like feel like I was powerful again after that bad relationship that I had gotten out of. Because we were focused on self-defense, you know, not just martial arts for sport, but like the practice of protecting ourselves. And so, yeah, it took a while to be able to do the things that I saw them doing. But that experience of like just trying something and working on something and building something was very like, I think it helped me start to rebuild my spirit that I had lost. And in terms of like dancing, like I grew up in a Black house, but we weren't, I wouldn't say like Afrocentric in our culture. And so that was just not a part of any of like the ethos that I had growing up. So I was completely divorced from, you know, my ancestry and ancestral practices. But I want to say it was like meeting Dr. Boston and Dr. McLean, you know, with Tallahassee Food Network and Harambe House. Then I start to see elders who were practicing that and practicing dance and practicing like Orisha worship. And I was like, what is this? You know, and you're like using this to fuel your work. You're bringing your practices into your environmental justice work. You know, I was like, interesting. So when I started dancing, it was another reclamation of my spirit. It was another reclamation of practicing. And I think it's important for everyone to be able to connect with their ancestry. I think that, you know, we're in a time where we're experiencing a lot of spiritual suppression and cultural suppression. And we've seen this in like previous, you know, fascist states. Like you suppress the culture first. Like you strip people of their identity. And that is the beginning of subjugation and oppression and control. And so I think the reclamation of our practices is very important. And it was really important for me to share that with folks at the convening. One, just because I had the opportunity to do it. And I don't know that folks get to experience West African dance all that much. But also I know just in general, like dance for me is a way that I like to connect with people. It's a way that I like to infuse fun. I think our work can be very serious a lot of times. It can be hard. It can be sad. And so any way that I'm like, let's just shake it off. Let's have fun. You know, let's release. I love to do that. I remember when we had the youth led the march from our commerce office to Bandini Park for like the 710. And we had a caballo dorado. You know, folks were so excited to do that. We had fun, you know. And so anytime that we've had like the opportunity to have music and dancing in our spaces, it's like it fills my spirit. So I love practicing that. I love bringing that into our movement. And I've appreciated all the times that we've made space to do that. You know, I definitely credit you a lot for being like, let's infuse some art here. You know, let's not just have our paperwork. How can we make what we're doing fun?
It's because I'm notoriously bad with paperwork. That's what I'm trying to.
I wasn't gonna say that. But like it just also uplifts that we all have different gifts to offer to the movement, you know. And I think as much as we can bring those gifts, that's not just fighting the bad, but like having fun and bringing the good and the lightheartedness. Like it's very important. And I think Eastside has done a great job of that. It's like, where can we infuse the fun and the arts and the culture into our practices and our environmental justice work?
Yeah. You know, I think about those beautiful elders that you mentioned, and I think about your transition in leadership right now in the organization. And, you know, I think about you as an elder in the future. And there's, you know, there's folks who I come across, I'm like, damn, I can't wait till you're an elder, you know, like the power you will have and the gifts that you will give. And, you know, being an executive director for Eastside, it ages you. Maybe not physically, but mentality in the way that you look at the movement and think about the movement. It really does, right? And I think about, folks like Angelo, folks like Isela, myself, you and Laura. And so thinking about yourself as a future elder in the movement, right? And as you're transitioning, and I don't know where you're at in your thought process about this, right? But like what gifts do you feel like you currently have to continue to give to the movement? And then maybe what are some gifts that you feel like you need to give yourself, or maybe for those of us around you to give you, to strengthen you for whatever is to come?
Well, what gifts I like to offer? I like to be, well, I don't know if I like to be, but I know that I have, I've been uniquely positioned, and I'm not afraid to be the person that says the things that need to be said.
That's real.
So
I have heard many of things that needed to be said by Taylor.
And so I like to offer to be like a front shield for people in that way. I don't mind busting the door down and to share any of my experiences to the best of my memory that I can remember. And I like to be a cheerleader for people. You need someone to hype you up. You need someone in your corner. You need someone to champion you. I love to do that. I love to remind people that they're amazing, that they're powerful. And that, of course, relies on me to do that for myself. Because when I forget, but I like to be in people's corner. And so I like to offer the gift of I can be light and levity and have fun. And I'm going to tell the truth.
Yeah, you're not going to let fools be out here looking a fool.
No, no. I'm going to tell the truth to the best that I can, to the best that, we have capacity to engage in honest conversations. So that's a gift that I like to offer. Things that folks can offer me. I like chocolate. Right now I've been thinking about a lot, what do I miss that I haven't had the time to really connect with as much? And that's nature. So being outside, it's springtime, it's going to be summertime. So I definitely want to be more social. So just connecting in person with people is really important. I go through my periods where I'm in a cocoon and I could kind of drop off the face of the planet. And I'm remembering that we need each other to build a new world. And so as much as possible, I really want to just connect in person with folks, primarily outside.
Yeah.
Let's get to know each other in a deeper way. Let's get to know each other outside of our hardships. That's important, included. But also who's your inner child? What do they like? What kind of fun do they like to have? Let's go do that.
Yeah. So if you got some land, you can invite Taylor to spend some time on the land.
All expenses paid.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think that, as you transition to kind of this next phase of your life, I'm excited to continue to learn from you, to continue to support you. As long as you ain't doing nothing whack.
Call me out. Make a meme about me.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I think, to have been able to be part of your journey through East Yard, offer support when I can, maybe sometimes offer some headaches, whether I mean to or not. It's a beautiful experience to be part of that journey. And so, I want to continue to be part of the journey that you're on.
Oh, thank you, Mark, for saying that. I appreciate that. And that reminds me of you asked the question about support that I've had over the years. And, I always remember if I was nervous about doing something, I remember, the first time I did a keynote at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and you were like, you can do it. And I was like, I don't know. So anytime that I've been I don't know if I could do it, you've been like, yeah, you can. Like, why doubt yourself? And that's been really, just having you in my corner was like very important, you know, because you're like an older brother to me. You definitely get on my nerves sometimes. Definitely get on my nerves. But I know that you've always had my back. And so just knowing that I had you there was like, okay, I can do it. So when I would be in those policy spaces where I'm like, I'm the only advocate here, like, I got people behind me, you know, that care about me. So I appreciate you. And submit your mileage on time.
Oh, when you transition out, I'm going to bring back my 2024 mileage.
Hey, not my problem. Not my problem no more. Nope.
Yeah. Let me look at these.
Also, hey, we didn't tell the story about my interview.
Oh, okay. Tell that
the story about my interview. So I got an internship through the Advanced Organizing Institute. They paid for me to be an intern with Eastside for 1 year. And at the end of it, there was an offer to be a research and policy analyst because Angela was transitioning out. But, you know, we went through an interview process. So Marks was like, come up to my pad. I'm like, all right. Borrow my mom's car. I'm driving up here. I got my nice jeans, my nice boots. You know, I get up here. I'm like, East LA. I ain't never been up here, no. Where is that? You know, pull up. I'm like, okay, it's this house. For real. Comes out and Mark's in basketball shorts.
And now I don't even play basketball.
No. He's like, yeah, come on in. Welcome. I'm like, all right. Takes me to the living room. You know, children's toys everywhere. You know, because at that point.
That's why we're not in my living room right now.
Because the girls were pretty young at that time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you know, I didn't say no job interview I ever had. And then you were just like, yeah, it's all good. You got it. No problem. You know, you'll start this time. I'm like, all right. Interesting. This is no job interview I ever had. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, well, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I don't know. I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah, no, you know what? And it's funny because other folks have reflected interesting things about their interviews. I invited Cindy to my pad to talk, and before she joined the team, and I remember I was like outside playing with my daughters at like a water and sand like table, you know. And so I'm like, here's this little ass chair for you to sit on. Because that's what we're doing out here, you know? Like, Jan always talks about their interview, and one of my daughters was there, and I'm wearing like house shoes in the ECR, like organizing office, you know? And like, Laura also was like it was an informal type of situation. And part of this is, when you know folks, you know folks, right? And like, I'm not one for the formalities for formality's sake. And I think part of it is also a reflection of seeing, growing up with my grandma's house being an organizing space. And so, I like to think of my house in that way when we're not in the middle of transitioning from having young daughters to teenage daughters now. So our house is like boxes everywhere and all of that, right? But yeah, so I think part of that was inviting you to know who I am, because that's who I am. Yeah. I'm going to be wearing some basketball shorts or some running shorts or some soccer shorts or some Dickies shorts if we're out in the streets, and
taking care of your daughters.
And taking care of my daughters, and I'm not gonna fake the funk, A lot of these rules on how to act in society, I don't abide by. And part of setting that tone is like, as East Yard, we don't abide by them. We're out here doing whatever needs to get done in the ways that it needs to get done, and we're gonna make it happen. So yeah.
Yeah, you definitely set the tone for me to be like, when we're in these spaces, we're going to be exactly who we are. You know, there's no putting on, there's no faking, there's no pretending. Like, this is what it is. So it just surprised me. I was like, oh. Also, you could have told me that over the phone. Why did you drive all the way up here for that?
That's the thing. You know, I like to look people in the eye when we're having that type of conversation. You know, if it's a conversation of conflict, if it's a conversation of transition, you know, of responsibility, because that's what it was. Is it wasn't inviting you to have a job. It was inviting you to take responsibility within our movement. And so that's not a phone call conversation, you know.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you, Eric, for preparing these questions that I didn't look at, but yeah, I think we got it.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything, Eric, that's like, let's see.
Close it out. Say bye, everybody.
We didn't even introduce ourselves, should we? No, we're good? Okay.
Yeah, that works. I feel like we hit on some of that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Well, I love you, Taylor.
I love you too, Mark.
I'm not just for the camera.
Oh.
Yeah.
Estoy enferma, ayúdame.